Well, hello there.
Hi, I'm Emily.
I'm Terry.
And we're going to show you our 6th block in the Good Neighbor Sew Along series. We have Rockwall. So Terry and I are both from Illinois. We had to Google some information about Rockwall. I know they have a post office, right?
Yes.
And maybe a stoplight.
And they gotta have a fire department.
And the other great thing about Rockwall is we get Eileen from Rockwall. So she comes to the store all the time. Rockwall is her home. But what else about Rockwall, Terry?
Well, there's another one that comes in. Her name is Sandra Hill, and she's one of my favorite little sewing buddies whenever I go to Rockwall. But I also know...
And what about Stephanie, too?
Stephanie, yes.
Yep. Okay, but what about Facts for Kids?
Facts for Kids. Rockwall is actually a natural geographic formation in the form of a rock wall. Did y'all know that?
Well, now we do. So we're going to be sewing the Rockwall block today, and Terry, you're going to show everyone the Skyline series?
Yes. And one of the cool things about this one is not only is it the first one that has the AccuFeed Flex system, it comes with an all-purpose foot, which I use when I do stripes and lining up different fabrics. But it also will sew knit fabrics and keep them flat, and I can adjust the speed just like a serger so I can get things to sew out flat. It has a straight stitch foot, a open toe applique foot, and an end of ditch quilting foot. And so we have these all on the wall here at the store, so if you're interested I can show you any of those, but today we're going to use the 1/4 inch. This is a nice entry-level machine, but it's actually not at the lower end. It's right in the center, just with some of our other machines. And the reason is the first machine that you're able to get the AccuFeed Flex system on. The superior feed system, we have a needle threader, and you still have all your luxuries of thread cutting, needle up, down, and then you have over 200 stitches. But the nice thing about this machine is it's one of the, right on the front screen, you have 8 quick direct stitches. So you can do your straight stitches, your lock stitches. You can also just push and go right to your buttonhole. You also have all your editing keys right on the front. Easy access and easy to use. And one of the nice things about it is when you flip the lid, it has different modes of stitches. And right here it says 1/4 inch. So I'm going to dial 06, and it comes up on the screen as 1/4 inch. It tells me needle position, but it tells me the stitch length. Like I said earlier, I like to use 1.8. It's a nice little short stitch that helps me be more meticulous when I'm sewing. But you can change that by plussing it up or plussing it or minusing it down. So very easy to use. Also, we have the all-purpose foot on here right now, but I can just switch right onto my AccuFeed Flex, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to unscrew the side of the ankle here. I'm going to screw this back on, and to activate this foot, if you can see these little feet are still sticking up, on the back there's a little silver lever. I'm going to push that in. You can see the feet going down. I'm ready now to start sewing with my 1/4 inch and AccuFeed. Now if I want to, I can put this little insert in that has a black flange, and I'm able to do a 1/4 inch. And it's very easy to do if I have already put my foot on. I tip the foot frontwards and push it right off. And then I'm able to take the next one, which is my 1/4 inch, line it up with my feet, raise it up, and there's little levers there that go right into there, and then I'm ready to go.
All right, so this week we have our Rockwall block. This is the 6th block in our Good Neighbor series. So here's the layout. So this one's gonna be a lot of fun. We've got a couple techniques that we checked out last week in our Waxahachie block, and to catch myself there. So we're gonna build on those skills, and then we're gonna do a couple more things. You'll see that we essentially have 2 full block units. We have this one here, and this one here. So those are going to be identical blocks for here and here and here and here. And we're going to put those together kind of separately. So we've got our bigger triangles, we've got our trapezoids again that will help make up our triangle blocks here, 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 and there. And we've got our squares at the corners, as well as our small triangles throughout. So we're going to take a little bit more time and probably walk you through this layout because it's a little bit more complex and we're building on skills we've already learned with the QUILT blocks. But we're really excited about our Rockwall block. Okay, so you can see we have some pretty wrinkly blocks, and that's okay. We've been showing the reliable iron, which we really love, but look what just came in. I know we've had some people special ordering these, and you've been waiting a long time. We showed these off at our Fun Friday, maybe in February, but these are in again, and I want to show you kind of the benefits of this mini Oliso iron. Like we've said this whole time, we love having a travel iron next to our space because it doesn't take up a ton of room. But this one's really cool. It has a pointed tip, so I can actually get into some of my my blocks and press my seams open the way I love. Maybe I can skip the roller. I'm going to try that today because I've got my tip on my iron. It also comes with a silicone stand that I can flip this over and I can rest my hot iron right on that. And when that's ready to cool down, in fact, I was using this morning and packed it with me, I can take my warm iron and snug it right into my travel silicone mat, just like that. So, and if I have my nice pegboard, I can hang this from this hook right here and kind of keep it out of the way of my workspace. So we're going to use this one today because we've got some wrinkly blocks, and we'll get those all set and use our Oliso mini travel iron. Okay, so I'm gonna keep using my flatter just because if I iron this without using the flatter, I'm probably still gonna see a little bit of that crease, even though I've got my iron set on my hot level. So I'm just gonna spray a little bit of my flatter spray. I'm gonna try to keep my fabric from shifting. My wool mat's still really great because the heat kind of soaks into the mat and then comes back up to give me a perfect press.
What scent are you using today?
Let's check it out, Terry. It is, it's actually scentless.
Oh, cool. For those people who have problems with perfumes, that's an excellent one.
I still love my Celebration. I think the Yuzu was pretty awesome too. But yeah, the scentless is pretty nice. And really quickly, I get perfect presses, and we'll be ready to sew our blocks together in a pretty quick time here. Terry, did you have breakfast? Your stomach is growling. I hope y'all can hear that on the camera.
I had actually some coffee this morning, and it reminds me of a joke.
Okay.
What do you call a cow that has had its baby?
Oh my gosh. It's too early for me to try to answer. Just tell me.
Decaffeinated, just like my coffee.
Wait, you are not having decaffeinated coffee. All right, we'll move along. Okay, so we are all pressed and our pieces are looking much better than we got them out of the bag. We're gonna start with our easy blocks first and kind of pick up from last week. So we already have our big triangle here that we don't have to worry about just yet. So I'm gonna take the green piece and the light pink piece, and what we're gonna do is flip this right sides together, line up our points right along there, and the QUILT does that perfectly on these small pieces, and we're gonna sew our 1/4 inch right along the seam. So I'm going to do that on the green and pink ones, and I'm also going to do that on the light blue and the navy ones. Flip those just like that. We can save some time and do some chain piecing, but we're going to focus on this block first and finish this one. But I'm going to send these over to Terry at his machine.
Okay, Emily set me up for some chain piecing, and what I'm going to do is I noticed that the light blue and the dark blue are similar shapes as our light pink and green. So I'm going to go ahead and chain piece all 4 of these sections. This machine has a manual foot lift, so I'm going to lower that. right here, this little silver dot, make sure that's in, and then go ahead and start to sew.
Oh, that machine's purring.
It's one of the quiet ones. I really like these Skyline series. They are a great entry-level machine, but for the features that it has, it's just amazing. And I'm noticing that my blocks this time are lining up really well. Also notice that this machine doesn't have the actual automatic feeding system that some of the others we've used. So I manually have to lift my foot up to get to the next piece, but I'm still getting a perfect stitch, a perfect 1/4 inch with my piecing process. So chain piecing is really nice to cut down the amount of time of going back and forth to your sewing table. So now I'm just going to hit my thread cutter, and then I'm going to pull off all my pieces and cut it on my little handy dandy caddy. And if you hear that clinking sound, those are my favorite little mini wonder clips. I use these instead of stick pins, and you'll actually see that hopefully in a little bit. Now we're going to have Emily press all these open, and before we go to our next step, we will put it back and line everything back up.
So I'm pressing my seams open on this block, and check out how having that point on my iron really helps me get a nice, easy, crisp seam open. So while I still love my roller on this smaller seam, I don't even need it with this iron because it has a point.
It's easier to make sure that you sew the block correctly, as if you do any chain piecing, you actually insert them back in the correct area. That way you know that you have your blocks coming together the right way.
Beautiful. That Janome really did a great job with my stitches. My 1/4 inch looks great. So just like with that block that we had last week, whenever we're sewing these pieces together, the mix and match blocks really allow us to put multiple units together. So the trapezoid and the triangle now actually equal this larger triangle, and we can see how nice those are going to come together. We're not going to sew these together as these triangle units. We're still going to work on them as individual square blocks, but look how beautiful everything is lining up. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to stick to our easy blocks, and I'm going to fold these right on over. And
can I show you a little cool thing?
Oh, totally, Terry.
So remember that when we did this, these two triangles and trapezoid, it turned out this size. So what happens if you, at the end, turn this block like this? Now you have a square within a square. So there's really cool things you can do with that QUILT, because it will consistently turn out the same size, that you're able to do some really cool stuff. And so once we get all 4 of our squares, we'll show you one more different design that you can do.
Very cool. I think Rockwall might be one of my favorite blocks, Terry.
It's got a lot of potential.
I think we keep kind of gaining skills and making things a little bit more interesting, that this final quilt is going to be awesome. All right, so I'm going to hand you these pieces, okay?
Okay. All right, here you go. Here's the last piece when I have that thing. So I was thinking about my coffee, and I actually put milk in it. So I was like, you know what? What do you call it when you're standing in milk up to here? Pasteurize.
I can't with you. I can't. Terry, I'm laughing at you, not your joke, okay?
I've been sewing this block. Look how nice and square these squares are now. So by this time, by pressing our bias and press and open, we're getting a really nice square. So now we're going to work on our next part. What would that be?
So now we have to work on what you might call a reverse flying goose. I don't know.
Well, it's got something to do with a goose, but I'm not for sure.
Okay, so we're going to take this square with these two triangles and we're going to do one part at a time. So the first thing we're going to do is line these up, and I want to make sure this is lined up and this corner is lined up. And I'm going to sew right along this 1/4 inch right here, or Terry will. And then we're going to show you when we come back how to press that and then add this piece. So let's do one part at a time. We've got our triangle attached to our square over here, and we've got our triangle attached to our square over here. So now all we need to do is line this up just like that, and we're going to sew along here, and we're going to sew along there.
And then when we are lining this up, notice that we have a flat corner right here. That's what we're lining it up with right there. And so we'll sew those two seams, and we'll be right back with you. Some of our new sewers, especially new quilters, have asked questions about what are we talking about when we talk about bias. When you actually pick up your fabric, I'll use this square. When you pick up your fabric and you pull it one way, you'll see that it doesn't pull. It's pretty flat and straight. And then when you pull it the other way, it's flat and straight. This is called with the grain of your fabric. Now, if I take a corner and I pull in that direction, watch how the fabric pulls. This is called the bias. So when we do binding, we like it to pull like that because it'll actually pull with the quilt and it'll last longer. If we pull it this way, we're good as far as stretching also. So that's why when we put it in the sewing machine, we like to sew straight with the grain. See how that doesn't pull? Now we're getting to the bias. So when I pull on this side of my triangle, watch how it distorts. So it will pull very hard. So remember when I was first ironing, I always put the flatter right down my bias edge. That way I could keep it harder like the grain of the fabric and it won't move. So even the short part of this square or triangle will not pull, but the long part pulls. So when I lay this down, even though I have a nice straight piecing technique right here, when you see it up against this flat one, you can see how it bows. But watch this. If I pull this, I can pull it right down to where it's supposed to be. And then this little stretch, once I iron it, is going to come out. And so then I'm back to a nice triangle again. And so that's what we'll do next. That's our next step.
Well, right, we've got two pretty equal triangles because of our AccuQuilt blocks. So we can line those up, make some adjustments if we need because of the bias, and we can sew those up on our machine with the 1/4 inch.
I wanted to say one real quick note when we get to this part. Does it matter if we sew this way or this way? The reason why I want to sew this particular one with this facing up is that point right there where our colored piece and our white pieces, our needle needs to go through that point so we could get a nice point on there. And I can also see the blue fabric, and I can pull my piece to fit. So we got some nice squares. Look how nice these are turning out. So remember earlier I had done this. So if I turn this one and that one, look how cool that block looks.
Well, it's not the way I designed it, but I'll let it slide, Terry.
Okay. Well, the quilting is full of happy accidents. Thank you, Bob Ross. So I'm going to turn this like this.
Oh, that's cool.
And now look. That's even cooler. So If you use artistic license, it's completely fine if you find a situation where you like that block, because it's not going to affect the way that we quilt it in the end unless you are going to use rulers and stuff. So, but look how nice these points are coming out. So I'm excited about this block. I think you're going to have fun with this one also.
Well, you know what? You want to know where this is going to matter if you rotate it? You might have to pay a little bit more attention, like if you rotated it like that, to matching these seams up, which you can totally do. But if you go back to this one, you don't have to worry about your points matching up.
Which is always nice, especially if it's your...
Maybe one of your first quilts that you've done.
So our next step will be sewing this block to this one and this block to this one. And so I'll go ahead and do that and we'll be right back.
We've been pressing our seams open so far, but now we are going to press them to the side so that we can show you how to lock your seam. So when I turn this over, if I kind of just press this the way that the fabric wants to go, we can do that. We could press to the dark side as well. Either way you can choose, but I just want to make sure that I press them opposite directions. So if I press them to the dark side over here, I'm actually going to do that on this one too, so that they're going opposite directions and we can lock them together.
And then, remember when we were talking about fabric layover? So if we push it one way or the other, like if we do it like this particular one, if I do it this way, that fold over is going to compensate for my point if I got it on or off. But today's points are looking pretty good. So for this block, it's not going to matter. But if you find that your point is almost on, you'll find that one way you fold it or the other is going to be nice and perfect.
So whenever we say to the dark side, this isn't the lightest color fabric, but this one is darker. So as long as you press to the side and your fabric isn't going to show through the white, you're going to be okay. I have taught a few people kind of brand new quilters, and I kind of see the same thing all the time when we press, and we haven't really addressed this yet, but I see a lot of people just put their iron straight down on a seam, which isn't going to be an ideal situation. Because we have a little bit of fabric stretch, we don't want to pull our fabric, but I'm just going to hold on to it, and I'm going to put my iron to my side here and just kind of smooth into my seam. And then we don't have kind of pressing down to kind of just squash a seam. And I just say that because I've seen a couple people do it, and there are no kind of dumb questions or, you know, basic tips. That's kind of what we're here for anyway. So I can press those to the dark side, I can turn it over, and I still have my points, and I can just give that another press on the top.
One of the things you've been noticing with Emily's iron, the Aliso, is that it has this nice point right here. And so the nice point, actually, when you put your fabric down, it will split those pieces for you as you're going through. And I found sometimes where mine is rounded, and so I will actually be right in front trying to push this down for it to go like that. And that is why when I first started and just kind of surprised people, is that I use this dressmaker roller, and I can actually just push this down and go back and forth a couple times. It immediately opens, and then I can just put my iron down. So these really do come in handy when you're doing piecing. Okay, so I've turned this to the side. Remember, we were working this way. We've got our seam pressed towards this dark navy blue, and then down here it's pointed this way. I'm going to turn it this way and fold this over the top. Now, in quilting circles, this is called locking your seams. So when you look right down, you'll see that my blue and my gold will lock perfectly, and if I take my fingers and I pinch back and forth, I can get that to set right into each other, and we're ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pin, I'm going to stick it right in this seam, and it will come out on my thread seam on this side and thread seam on this side. And to keep that flat, I'm going to use these nice little pin-sized Wonder Clips. I'm going to put one here, and then I'm going to put one on the other side here. And now I'm going to come over to the machine and I want to show you how I'm going to sew this. This is how we're going to sew this on the machine. But I think we have a special guest.
We do have a special guest. I'm sure you guys have already heard Jessica laugh, but we have an even more special guest.
Doug is a movie star for sure. Sorry, he's messing up the block.
No, it's perfect. Hey, Doug.
Doug, do you have any quilting tips?
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, all the hair.
So we're gonna sew a knife. One of these things I like about these little Wonder Clips is how they hold the fabric, but I can actually, once I start, I can squeeze down and move it to the side and continue to sew. And then as we get further down, just like when you pin a certain point, when you get close to where you have the pin at, notice how I'm starting to have some issues there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little stiletto and I'm going to put it straight down into my point. And I'm going to pull both of these off to the side. My fabrics have not moved. I'm going to slowly sew frontwards. And I'm done with that one. And now I'm going to sew down to the end. And remember, we don't have any seams to match except for those little diagonals. So now we're going to go over to Emily and see how we did. Okay, I just finished that seam and let's see what it looks like.
I gotta see how Terry did.
Look at it.
It's perfect.
Oh, I'm getting better at this at my old age.
You're not a new
Iron
quilter.
it. Iron it.
Okay, I'll iron it. Are we
it.
pressing to the side or?
Whatever you want.
Okay, thanks, Terry. So this is our Rockwall block. We're gonna press it open, and I'm pretty excited about this one. Thank you so much for following along with us. This is our 6th week for our Rockwall block for our Good Neighbor Quilt Along. We have put together our really cool block here using the Ruby Star Society fabric. We've got another sew along coming up with the Ruby Star Jelly Roll. But don't forget to follow along on our hashtags. Sew along with Stitch House. Perfect points, we've got those too. So we can't wait to keep seeing everything that everybody's making, and we can't wait to have you in the store starting in June.
And catch me on Facebook.
Yeah, Terry, I'm sorry. Do you want to say anything?
She always does this, and you know I'm lucky I got out of MySpace onto Facebook. I promise I will start to do things better. But if you found any information today on these blocks that you really liked, give us a thumbs up. Also remember to include yourself in all of our videos by leaving comments.
And subscribe to our channel.